Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 17 today for the Russian Grand Prix in Season 1. If you guys did miss the last one at the Singapore Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. A very good race, spoiler alert, it was our new highest finished position in the race, so that was a very good one. Also a grid slot as well for qualifying, so hopefully good signs that the car is improving. That episode we had 2 upgrades, I think, that came in, which was the weight reduction and also the engine power, and we purchased further upgrades in that episode that are going to come in the next 2, I think. We've got a load of upgrades coming for the Japanese Grand Prix and then potentially afterwards, and we've also got some R&D points to spend. You can see on the top right there, also at the start of this episode. But before we get into that, quickly just choosing the activities we can do. Only 2 days until this Grand Prix following the Singapore Grand Prix, so literally only just one activity we can pick, so it's not much of a big deal in terms of which one we went for. And also on top of R&D to spend, we've got money to spend, of course, and you can clearly see here we've got one last upgrade left on the aerodynamics part of the facility in the HQ, and then we've got every performance-based part of our HQ on the same level. We've had all Spec 1 upgrades on the engine side since the beginning. We've been upgrading slowly but surely Spec 1 of aero and chassis, and now with this final upgrade, quality control, to reduce the failure rate by a small amount, 10%, on the aerodynamic side of the R&D tree, we'll have Spec 1 all 4 done on every single performance-based part, obviously not including the kind of other ones, durability, obviously not a performance, and then the marketing and the personnel, which we're yet to invest in really this stage. Don't need to at this stage of our career. I feel like we'll only invest in the personnel once we're at a point where the car is actually able to maybe go out there and get some decent points, podiums and such. That's when you want to start maybe improving the second teammate, or at least that's, in my opinion, when you want to start doing it. Right now, for me personally, I just don't see a point in it. But we're going to move forward then. So we've purchased that upgrade, so that's going to obviously take some time to come in, but once it does, we've got a nice foundation. But then also at the same time, this marks then the start of every other upgrade now in the HQ being very expensive. You know, the base level of Spec 2 upgrades, you know, you're ranging from 3 million to 5 million or more. So it's going to now take a lot longer to see HQ upgrades. So you may not be hearing from me at the start of episodes as often as you have in the first 17 episodes, basically, about HQ upgrades. But we move through looking into the R&D. Like I said, we've got a pending engine power upgrade, a minor one. We've also got a further weight reduction upgrade on the chassis, as well as a weight redistribution as well, which we purchased last episode. And I talked about wanting to save R&D points, of course, because I think there's going to be a regulation change, because Carl did say in an email to me 2 episodes ago there was, but I'm yet to receive any message or indication of what that reset's going to be. So I do want to save R&D points, but I also do want to upgrade just a little bit more, just to keep on pushing the car, because our rivals at Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, Renault, etc., they're still improving their car, so I want to try and keep up with them. So we purchased a minor drag reduction update. Now I honestly think, I know I said it last time, but I honestly think now that might be honestly our last upgrades for the season. I think now we call it a day. This is the car we have for the rest of the season, and just save R&D points to make sure that we can reset and adjust anything that's going to get reset in the regulation change for Season 2, because that'll be very important. But at the same time, it is a very tough thing to manage, because we move on towards the Russian Grand Prix, looking at the R&D chart in the middle of the race weekend when our upgrades finally get installed onto the car and represented on the chart, you can see the graph still indicates, you know, Racing Point, McLaren, both improving so much so that they're pretty much on the heels of Red Bull, fighting for that 3rd best team on the grid on paper. And then you can see it's very close between Alfa Romeo, Renault, and AlphaTauri, and us, who we're kind of closing up, and we've overtaken Haas now on paper. Of course, though, we've always known on the F1 game for the last 2 years, this graph really doesn't, it's not gospel, because once we get to certain tracks, you know, certain tracks have certain, you know, characteristics and strengths of different cars, but it's a kind of general sort of indication, and the indication is that our rivals are still upgrading. So it's kind of tough to say we're not going to upgrade anymore, but we have 4 upgrades pending. That's quite a lot, to be fair, and it's going to take 2 episodes for all those to come in, and we are, you know, in the last third, so it kind of makes sense and sensible to maybe, put a halt and literally just save R&D for that reset, and also to buy upgrades over the winter break, because they'll take no time to install, of course, compared to the upgrades we're doing now. So there's a lot of, obviously positives to be saving R&D, so we'll look into that and take it step by step, but I tentatively say that's probably the last upgrade we purchased this season. So we now move through into Q1 of the Russian GP here at Sochi. Bit of traffic to contend with at our first opening flying lap. Russia, obviously, in real life is not really one of the most exciting Grand Prix in the world. To drive on the game, to be fair, it was actually a little bit flowing on last year's game, but this year they've changed it slightly. I think certain parts of the track have got a little bit wider, or that just might be my placebo effect, I don't know, but some of the curbs have definitely changed on the inside, which kind of, discourages you to ride the curbs a little bit harsher than we could do on last year's game, so it kind of ruins the flow a little bit. But I also do feel they've actually physically widened the track in some parts here and there, but I can't be for certain. Like I said, it might just be my eyes playing tricks on me and the feeling in the car. But we eventually get to grips with it. I found a bit of a rhythm eventually at the end of Q1 to improve my lap time by about 3:10. So the cross line we go, and we do make it through into Q2 in P11. But crucially, for the very first time, the second car of ours makes it through. Jack Aitken, piloting that second aarava Archer Racing Formula 1 car, has made it through. So that's the first time both our cars have made it through into Q2. So it's definitely a moment to celebrate, because, of course, yeah, I know we've got some decent points, a high P4 finish last time. We qualified into Q3 last episode, literally. But I think it's a big achievement to get the AI teammate up into Q2. That really shows the car is making some progress compared to our rivals. You can see Albon was struggling there, so maybe there's obviously some mistakes for some AI and whatnot, but it's still a big achievement, I feel, the first time we've got both cars in Q2. So gonna, take some solace in that. I feel quite happy with that. But we move on into Q2. Job's not done there. Obviously, we try our hardest to make it through into Q3. We got very lucky last time at the Singapore Grand Prix because of all that rain and the very weird kind of session we had Q2 to Q3. This time it's fully dry here at Russia for the entire race weekend, so I'm not expecting a Q3 at the moment. Aitken is in P14, so I would say if we can qualify, P12, 11, that would be quite nice, but it's quite good to see him up in P14, because usually I'm used to seeing him down in P19, 20, same thing with Mick Schumacher when we had him as a teammate, so it's really decent to see the cars going well around this circuit. Obviously engine power, good use, aero as well. Across the line then, at the end of Q2, it's an okay lap there, and it gets us P13 on the road. Aitken pushed down to P15, so like I said, he was in P14 and I said P12, so that's effectively where we came in P13 because he moved everyone down by one. But getting pipped by Dan Ricciardo, our main rival obviously right now in the in-game for the acclaim level, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Ricciardo's going to beat us again on that rivalry front. We're going to have to try and make sure we hopefully beat him in the race, but you never know. He looks pretty pacey there. He's beaten Max Verstappen in Q2, so hopefully that Renault's not too quick in the race. The McLarens and Racing Points, though, looking very strong. You can see, as was indicated, the R&D chart. So it's going to be an interesting one. Looks like we might be fighting the Alpha Tauris and maybe Albon, because he's been knocked out. Actually, I only just realized he's been knocked out in Q2. So Albon really struggling in that Red Bull. That's been getting slower and slower by the race, basically. It's kind of becoming a midfield team in a way, Red Bull, which is quite ironic because obviously in real life it's the Ferrari that's the one, a midfield team, and Red Bull are kind of the one trying to bridge the gap. But anyway, I digress. P13, decent job. I'm focusing on the fact that we both got through into Q2, so really happy at this stage, but let's finish it out. Second half of the race weekends, onto the race.
Welcome along then to Sochi and the Russian Grand Prix, one of 8 cities in the world to play host to both the Olympics and a Formula 1 race. It's a Grand Prix that's proven difficult to crack for anyone beyond the first 2 rows of the grid in recent years, so let's see if that can change today. It's full throttle for around 56% of the lap here at the Sochi Autodrome, a 3.6-mile run around the site of the 2014 Winter Olympics. 12 right turns and 6 left turns give us a total count of 18, with passing opportunities available into turns 1 and 13. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Let me ask you about Racing Point. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Vettel, Sergio Perez, and Sainz, Verstappen, Norris, Stroll, and Alexander Albon. Ocon, the owner-driver, Daniel Kvyat and Aitken, Raikkonen, Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo. They've taken a grid penalty. And Pierre Gasly, Russell, Latifi, Giovinazzi, and Romain Grosjean sits at the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
All right, so surprise, surprise, it's going to be a one-stop here today for the Russian Grand Prix. A very low tyre wear around Sochi, at least on last year's game. I'll be surprised if there was high tyre wear at the end of our stints for these tyres. So soft to mediums, we're going to lower the fuel down a little bit, but still obviously have plenty to use on the straights. We're going to need them to try and overtake some cars. And let's see once again if we can try and get this car in the points, and hopefully maybe Aitken can go well as well from that P15 grid slot. But here we go then, wasting no time to get into it as we go to 5 red lights. So round number 17 of this season, the Russian Grand Prix here at Sochi is underway, and it's a good start for us compared to Esteban Ocon, really bogged down in the Renault. Albon ahead of us slow as well, and we go to the inside of turn 1, nearly squeezed right into the wall there by Alexander Albon, using plenty of overtake mode, but had to, be a little bit cautious as well, because as we went through into that corner, I almost thought we were going to get straight into the wall and damage our front wing, or even worse, really. So very fine margins, but made it through. Didn't get my foot off the pedal on the right hand side of the cockpit, and we made the overtake on the Red Bull racing car. So like I said, we might be racing Albon today. He looked slow at the Italian Grand Prix. We obviously didn't really see him that much at Singapore, but the Red Bull cars have looked slow as of late. Speaking of though, Albon comes back at us now on the inside, so I'm sure trying to claw back that position. A little bit embarrassed maybe to be overtaken by a high car, but we've done it. And Aitken, to be fair to him, doing a good job at the moment there, just 3 cars back, still in that P15 position, so at least he hasn't lost a position in this Grand Prix early doors. As we move through into lap number 3 then, DRS is activated in this Grand Prix, and we're looking to try and pull away from Albon and close up to Lance Stroll. The cars ahead of him, Lando Norris, you've got Verstappen there, a little bit lower down, but I don't expect us to fight and really catch up to the McLarens and the Red Bull of Verstappen at least, and even Sergio Perez, because those guys look quick. But Stroll, we've seen so far this season, his AI just is quite slow, and even though he's in a good Racing Point car, because his AI is so bad, I think we should be able to close up to him and overtake him. So let's try and get him, because this might be the highest position we get in this race, P9. So we might have the battle we're in all race long right here in front of our eyes right now, with Lance Stroll and Albon and Ocon behind us. As we move through into lap number 4, DRS open for both our cars, unable to really break the deadlock here, with Stroll into turns 2, very close, pretty much pushing him through that corner as he's quite slow, but still nothing comes of it. So quite frustrating right now, being stuck in a bit of a DRS and ERS overtake mode trade, because I feel like every time I'm pressing overtake mode, he is doing it as well. But we come through onto the end of lap 4, the back straight now, curve rather, as we go subtly right and then subtly left down towards the brake zone before going under the bridge on the right hander. We're going to send one to the inside there. Easy does it, roll the car through. Stroll leaves us the room on the outside there. We're going to go toe to toe, bit of contact made on the exit as Stroll gives us a good old squeeze on the right hand side, but we keep it through on the right, and we'll have the inside line for that very awkward off canvas chicane, which they have changed the layout of. Of course, you'll notice the wall there on the inside is not now fully at the apex there. They've actually got a bit of a gap and a bump and a sleeping policeman curb there instead of how it was in F1 2019, which does make it look a bit more inviting, but it's still got the exact same horrendous flow of the car, just doesn't want to turn right once you turn left. But we get the job done nonetheless, up into P9. And as we move on through this Grand Prix, Esteban Ocon with an engine failure behind us, so one of the Renaults up in smokes, and that is quite crucial, remember, for our championship fight with Renault and AlphaTauri. Only a few points covering us, and so that's one Renault not scoring points. And you might have seen, actually didn't mention it at the start of the race, but Ricciardo had a massive engine penalty, so even though he out-qualified us, he started well back behind us on the grid. So both Renaults weren't in a point-scoring position, but Ocon now out the Grand Prix and Ricciardo well out the points. So this is very good news for us. Of course, we've still got maybe the AlphaTauris hanging around at the very edge of the top 10, and also the Alfa Romeo cars going okay, but that's good news for us in terms of that one team in our battle. But as we go on through then the rest of this stint, looking to try and close up to this pack of, you got Norris v Verstappen, and then Perez just ahead. Norris trying to get down the inside there. He's made a good little move there, and he's going to have the momentum swing. You can see the little shift in the line, and Norris just gets ahead and is able to just swing through very nicely and smoothly up the order. And so Verstappen is the car just ahead of us in P8. So both Red Bulls struggling in this Grand Prix. Albon way more than Verstappen, obviously, but both Red Bulls just not looking like they have any more. They don't have really race pace anymore. They don't have qualifying pace either, because they've been going lower and lower on the grid, but their race pace definitely is questionable at times. But even though we were close to Verstappen, we weren't fully able to catch up to him and kind of reel him in with DRS and stay with him the entire time, because he still has that advantage in the corners and acceleration as well. So we kept him a little bit honest, but I don't think we'll really be fully in the fight just yet. Maybe at the end if he hits tyre where we might get a little bit lucky, but we move through into lap 11, and it's time for us to come in for our pit stop. As you may have seen earlier with that clip, Verstappen had come in on the lap before, so I now come in and with a bit of oversteer actually for good measure in that last sector. So even though the tyre wear isn't really that bad, I was starting to feel it a little bit on the edge of some corners here. Obviously lap 11 to 12, probably the max you want to go for, as Kvyat continues on for one more lap there, the AlphaTauri, as well as also one of the Alfa Romeos I can see on the right hand side there, as we go to the replay camera shot down the pit lane, and we make our one and only stop today for a set of medium yellow wall tyres. So this is going to be nice and simple, no issues for us on the pit stop, and so we're out still behind Norris and Perez and ahead of Alexander Albon. Now the question is, where is Verstappen going to be, and also where's Stroll and Kvyat going to be, because Stroll and Kvyat have both stayed out for one more lap, so that will be a big question mark of how the overcut or undercut's going to work, as we come out just ahead of Nicholas Latifi and Albon does not. So that might be quite crucial, because Albon might get caught up a little bit behind Latifi. We've seen a few times at some tighter circuits like this, it's sometimes difficult for them to make the pass straight away, as we now move through into lap number 13. Where is Stroll going to be? Well, there he is. We've already passed him at turn 1, as he's still exiting the pit lane. He will come out behind Albon, I'm pretty sure. So it's going to be, well, Verstappen's jumped Norris up ahead of us. So it's, I believe, Perez in P6, Verstappen, Norris, myself, Albon, and then Stroll. So from here on now, we try and do the best job we can. 4 seconds the gap is to Norris. I don't think we're going to be reeling him in. For some reason, again, these mediums, they're not feeling as great as the softs. I actually prefer the soft tyres, these mediums, even though generally I don't want to be on the hard tyre. But definitely around Sochi here, the medium's not feeling too great as well. And you can see now as we move through this second phase of the GP, Albon is closing up to us. DRS open. We've got no DRS. We're a sitting duck here. He's going to use some overtake mode. He's going to overtake us. We're going to take it nice and easy, because I feel like I could try and maybe overtake him later in the lap. So didn't fight that too much, but we are sticking right behind him. Stroll trying to sniff out a place here, so I need to be wary as I'm fighting Albon and being patient here with him. Stroll is right there trying to get me as well, so I need to be a little bit careful there as we move through into lap 16. Purple first sector, as we used a lot of overtake mode. I've realized in this race I wasn't using enough overtake mode on the straights. I was finding I actually had more than I thought I would, so I don't know if the engine upgrades, the engine power, has also just meant in turn the overtake mode harvest some more, or also maybe I got a free Honda upgrade that I don't know about, because I definitely had a little bit more ERS to play around with than I used to, basically, in the kind of first few races of this season. And with that, despite a little mistake there on the rear end and a wobble, we are closing up onto the Red Bull car. DRS open, a little bit of a move to the right hand side, a bit wary though, because the DRS can step the rear end out, but we go side by side now with the Red Bull car under the bridge through into sector 3, where we were side by side with Stroll last time. It's almost a copycat here as we go around the outside. This time I try to go for a switchback and it doesn't work, because Stroll hits me on the rear end there. Hopefully you saw what I was trying to do. I was trying to brake a little bit early, tighten up the corner, and I thought I could get a great exit, but one, Albon didn't go near enough wide into the corner as I thought he would do, and then Stroll just sent one to my inside as I tried the switchback, which is unfortunately a bit of an annoying thing with the AI sometimes when you try a bit more of an audacious switchback move. Sometimes because you're trying to straighten up the car, they do try and, basically dive it to the inside, the space you're opening up to straighten up the car, but nevertheless, we get the job done eventually into turns 2 on lap number 17 then, so 10 laps to go. We're back up into P9, but this may just be a yo-yo effect, back and forth with Albon, very much like was the case of the Italian Grand Prix. Not directly with Albon, but a lot of cars at the Italian Grand Prix, and the same thing might happen here in terms of lap after lap, trying to defend against him or letting him back through and then re-overtaking him with DRS. That time we defend, obviously, as you saw, but then here now, lap number 18, no matter how much we're going to squeeze him to the inside, Albon sends it through, and Stroll now, again, trying it. He makes some contact with us there as we get a warning for collision with Albon, so these guys are getting a little bit frosty as we have to try and barge past Albon, because for some reason, even though I was there on the inside, you may have seen, he basically just started turning into me and actually hit me on the side, and the hand of anger went up in the cockpit for my driver animation. So I don't know what these two are playing at in terms of they've got very argy-bargy now in these last few laps here. On lap 18, we squeeze Albon very much to the left there, bit of a wobble as he tries to navigate his rear end, and he locks up even, and so I think it's a bit of deja vu maybe of waiting and seeing if he's going to do that massive save he did in Singapore with that rear end stepping out. But you can see Stroll attacks us again, and that really slows us down here on lap 18. The time I've lost there is nearly a second to Albon, just because he overtook us, locked up, and as he did that, Stroll tried to overtake me. So Stroll's being a real pain in the arse at the moment in this GP as we move on to lap 21, pushing away. We have kind of dropped him now, 3.8 the gap, so thankfully the Canadian won't be hampering us anymore, and now we can just focus on overtaking Albon as we go through with DRS to the inside, but not as committed to the corner, and just can't get it done on the inside there as Albon gets to the apex, and we just didn't have enough overspeed, didn't use enough overtake mode, but also at the same time we're now coming through to the last kind of 25% of the ERS we've got, so I need to make sure we have enough once we overtake him to push away and actually maintain the position. So here we are now on lap 23. I don't even know what time this would be in terms of how many times we've overtaken him, and tried to do this, I think maybe 7th or 8th time we've tried to overtake him now in this GP as we come through into that last sector on the back curve slash straight, whatever you want to call it. DRS open, plenty of ERS here. We saved a lot on the previous lap, and so we've got a ton to use, and we carry on using it all the way once we made the overtake up into P9 now, and then we've got 4 laps to go to try and hold this through. And Albon a little bit slow on the rear end there, so maybe he's feeling some slight tyre wear, but we'll kind of see, because obviously he keeps on kind of sticking with us basically through sector 2, so that's the main issue that we've got at hand. So we now move through into the last lap of the Grand Prix, 26 onto 27. We've got a lot of ERS to use, and so we use all of it pretty much on this straight, or near enough, with Rich Mix, where we're on the teetering edge of running out of fuel. But you can see the power of ERS helping us stay ahead of Albon, even though he's very much within 1 second. He had DRS open, and if it wasn't for that ERS, he definitely would have overtaken us. So doing some good management there of having the ERS where we needed to. Although saying that, a really poor turn 2 for us, and Albon gets a great exit. He's actually going to try and go down the inside. We go defensive to the inside there, and he's on the outside. We go and scrub him off on the exit. But, yeah, a bit of a poor exit. So the tyre wear maybe kicking in a little bit here for our medium tyres. But also, for some reason, I just got such a poor exit off that corner. But we come through now to the last sector. Valtteri Bottas has won the Russian Grand Prix. Don't know where his teammate came. Hamilton, I think he was P2 looking at the mini-map there. Looks like they came quite quickly close to one another, 1 and 2. And then Ferrari 3 and 4. And then the McLaren I can see of P5. I'm guessing it's Carlos Sainz, because Lando Norris is up ahead of us in P8 as we come through the last few corners then for P9 at the Russian Grand Prix. Hard fought one, good race to beat a Red Bull racing car, I would say, as well. And in the end of it, though, it wasn't obviously an action-packed one, but still good. We got points. We're going to get all our sponsor goals with DSP Optics in the top 10, so that's positive as well. Not every single Grand Prix is going to be electric, of course, and if you had to pick one, it probably would have been the Russian Grand Prix, so no surprise there.
A great race then, and a fantastic win here in Sochi. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
They have it P9 and no Renault in sight in the top 10. Ricciardo down in P12. So it means we actually move up into P9 in the Drivers' Championship. I've only just realised Charles Leclerc is leading the way. I've not really been looking too much at the Drivers' Championship, but Leclerc somehow is leading. I guess he's been so super consistent compared to the two Mercedes cars, especially Hamilton with loads of retirements. But anyway, back to us for the Constructors' title. You can see here in P7, close to Renault now. It's very close to Renault. We've closed that gap, and so in the next episode or two, maybe we can look to overtake Renault and try and get that P6. So this has gone from, you know, fight for P9 in the championship up to P8, P7, and now P6. I reckon we could actually do it, because Renault, they are quick, but obviously they've had races like here where they're just nowhere as well, and obviously if we have the rub of the green, you never know what you can do. But unfortunately for us, we're being beaten by Ricciardo still 8-10, so at some point I have to out-qualify him, I think, to really try and beat him in this rivalry, I would say, because otherwise in the race there aren't enough tallies for me to actually overturn him in this rivalry. At the end of the episode, like I said, we get all sponsor objectives, DSP Optics, and the 2 sponsors for the fastest lap, which we did in FP1, so not quite 1 million, but very near to 1 million payout there on the sponsor bonuses. So that's a very good day in my books in terms of points and money. So guys, if you did enjoy that Russian Grand Prix, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.